to say in an EBD unit necessarily, but I worked in a school that was, we specifically in our district, if you had dysregulation in any way and you needed the extra support with behaviors, whether you're disability or just, you're working on that as a preschool to kindergarten, that's where I worked and my focus was, and I specifically worked with preschool through second, although I served all through 6th grade, and I was an assistant principal. Now I am an early childhood consultant. You got to hear this twice. Thank you. I'll try to be faster. I'm an early childhood consultant, and even though it's called Ashland, we actually serve 35 school districts, so I wish we could say every district. We are blah, 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 but that'd be too much of an intro. But although I do like the spotlight. I don't at all. I'm just kidding. So earlier we were talking about we talked about social and emotional literacy, and now we're just going to transition into family engagement and positive behavior outcomes. I think he alluded to that earlier. Doug did start talking about how important it is to have a really good basis of a relationship with your parents. In case anything gets a little bit more tricky, if you will, so we're going to kind of talk about that. Family engagement, I feel like I talk about this all the time, but it's so important. Just as important as it is for us to work with our kids on their social and emotional literacy, they're working with those things at home, so the partnership and actually helping our parents understand what we're working on and what our goals are and having ways to support them. I didn't mention this, but I did earlier, but I was a family resource center coordinator, and just that connection with parents and having the resource of your family resource centers, having that connection is a really great tool to use as helping when you're working with different behaviors in your classroom. But we will, and because this was the Behavior Institute, I just thought it'd be appropriate if we worked with this, talking about how important it is to be on the same page with your parents. So for the next 50 minutes, we're just going to talk about building positive relationships, engaging in two-way communication, ensuring equitable family representation in your classroom and in your schools, talking about the difficult conversations and the ARC meetings. Sometimes when we have a lot of these escalated behaviors and these, it starts to go into RTI, and you have to have difficult team conversations with advocates and things like that. So just kind of talking about those, the importance of those, and just a couple tools to use that we would have some resources for you available. Okay, so building positive relationships. I don't know if I have time. Everybody loves this guy. Have you all seen this one? I can play it. You want me to play it? I think we've listened to me enough. Oh, it won't play. I knew I had a problem. Wait, let me see. Oh, he's not gonna play. But he's my favorite, and I probably don't have enough time because I realized last I went over. This is my favorite one. He talks about how the school secretary answers, and this is school secretary, so I can't really do him, but how he, but how important it is. So if I can try and play it later and Google it, but the link's not working. But he does talk about, he shows that how it's not supposed to be really, just, tell your dad to poop on his own time, you're late for class, but they're funny. So but it is important, including families in the classrooms, but it really starts at the front, right? It starts if you're an administrator, if you're in the classroom, it starts with the very first smile you get. Was the integrated experience. It's how we say things really matter, even as much on the phone. Like I could say, thank you for calling Oakview, how can I help you? Or I could say, thank you for calling Oakview, how can I help you? But that really, you are in customer service. We're providing a service to our families. The kids don't come to school for us, we're there for them. And especially we're in preschool, not that you don't have enough on your plate to be the first of and to make sure you do all of, but now you are the very first customer service part for the entire district, and you get the kids there. The one thing, if you have a really good preschool, experience with your teachers and you love them, or you have a really great kindergarten. You could have a bad third grade year, but the parents are still invested because they love what they had at the beginning. So nope, no pressure, but you really can make this sustain through their whole career, just how much they love it. But again, sometimes I think we forget that we are in customer service. We are providing a service to parents, and we are here for them. So trying to do everything you can to meet that needs. And of course, the very first thing we think about is, okay, I have to have open house. You have open house and thinking about throughout the year, how do you really engage your parents as a whole? So if you start school when do you usually have open house? Like after you've been in school a couple weeks? The beginning, but you might even be in school a couple of weeks. So sometimes that becomes like, but trying to always think of a way to get it right at the beginning, that'd be good. Well, what about a child, and I know you get them, the child whose parents come in, so you have open house, you give them all the instructions, and you have all the fun things you do, and you try to start building a relationship. But what if I come in the middle of the year, and I have a little guy who has an IEP, and there's struggles? Is there anything you're able to do to start getting them involved in this, or no, as much as you told at open house, right? Do you have a parent packet? Do they get like the tour of the school? I always thought as an assistant principal that that was something I really wanted to do. The kids that come in on just 3 weeks after school starts, they kind of miss all that big welcome part, and they're probably from another city or state, so they're not even really, so just thinking about when you get a new student, not just focus on the student, but really try to think of a way to take the time and give the new parents tour, give them all of the parent packet, and not just a parent packet, but like really try to have that. I know you do, and hopefully the preschools has a jump on that because they're required to do home visits. So preschool, but are you able to do that home visit as soon as they get there? But really don't forget about the kids that come in and the parents that come in at a later date. But you can send personalized invitations to families, encouraging them to visit the school, not just the big main open houses and things that you have. Okay, I'm gonna go. I have some cool things, that's why I'm kind of going a little bit through this. But so one of the most important things is building effective two-way communication. So what are some of the ways that you communicate with your parents? What is it? Newsletter, yeah. So that's one way. Facebook. Right, so Facebook. They also have a lot of those new apps too. They have websites and apps. So a lot of those things are one way, a lot of one-way communication. And the greatest thing about those things is that we're able to get a lot of information out to a lot of people. In turn, something on Facebook can get out to a lot of people really fast if they don't like something you're doing. That it can be used. A messenger, yeah. Right. Right. And you can put those into just classrooms, so those are good because you can keep them up to date. My sister, though, but the newsletters and papers still, those are great things too because they didn't do that at his school. My nephew had 100 days school today, so she had to order stuff. She was really upset because she didn't look at the app. She was just looking in the folder, and so she forgot. So she ordered overnight stuff from Amazon like yesterday and got it at 6 this morning, which I didn't even know was a thing. But he was dressed and ready, so it was a little bit of a thing. But yeah, we have all this opportunity. We have email, but always think about the pros and cons of your what you're doing. You want to establish guidelines with it. Who is a person who, no matter what time of day and whoever texts, you're going to text back? I am. But some people, you really need, as busy as you are in the school day and as stressful your days are, having a guideline and letting them know that it will be turned off at a certain time. I will not answer after thing. I will say, though, I have saved, if you're a parent and something happened at school and you, as a teacher, you weren't able to tell the parent, relay what happened at school, and now you're not answering your messages or your emails or anything, but they're stewing about it. She told me that she was bit today. But the teacher never told me. I'm trying to email her, I'm trying to message her, I'm trying to Facebook her, I'm trying to text her. No one's answering. Stewing. So sometimes if you have a parameter, that's okay. But sometimes if you take the time to talk to them after school, you've saved an entire, Facebook rant or something. A lot of it, a lot of drama. So being proactive with parents, just on that note, but it's okay to establish guidelines. Some of those reminds and some of those other apps actually say like business hours and like when you will get back to them. But if you talk to them and say, I turn off my computer at this time, I will not be available. But for some reason, parents think that you are available 24/7. But it's okay to establish guidelines. It really is okay. Creating a system for anything you have is very important. One reason is if I get all excited at the beginning of the year and I'm like, okay, I have my new webpage and I have my new, and I'm going to be interactive and everything's going to be on it and I have my Facebook and I'm going to keep up with it. But if you're someone like me, it just goes, I'm too busy. Now parents are upset because you said this was going to happen and it's not happening. So as creating a system of who is going to be responsible for it, whether it's one teacher in your group that's responsible for keeping up with it. There was a time where you have your web page at the school system and all you have, like, because you're excited, you had a PD and we're going to set it up, and then like my web page had August. And then for the rest of the year, that was it. It had nothing else because I didn't have time to keep up with it. But having someone keep up with it, or at least reminding you to post something, parents look for that. They look for if you're going to put pictures. And also knowing that parents also want all of their kids to be represented. So using Facebook, and then you show all these great things, but their kid's missing. So sometimes having all these options available you share, it can always backfire. So making sure that you have a system how to represent everyone, making sure who can and cannot be on Facebook if you use that, how you're going to disseminate information, and more importantly, how frequently and who's going to do it. Because if you set the expectation that this is a resource you're going to have, and it's that time, then you need to have support for that. But I will be honest, that's not my thing. Jamie is great at it, so he's the guy. So, but we have a system. Cultural proficiency, again, showing, be understanding that not everyone has phones. We think that everybody does, but they don't. Not everyone has a certain amount of minutes. Not everyone has access to internet, especially driving through this area. Some people take for granted that everywhere you go, you're going to have a hotspot or Wi-Fi. It doesn't happen. They're out. So understanding cultural proficiency. One of the things, if you do have parents that are out, but having a computer in your parent area, or letting them have access to a computer even if they visit the school to drop off or pick up, just to kind of see what's going on and showing them what's going on. If they're able to, if they're like a parent pickup, that's something you can do. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaways is understand what the positives, the pros and cons are of using a newsletter. Of using, and there's really, of using Facebook, of using email, texts. Texts are great until I read it with an inflection that is not, like I don't use, if I don't use the correct commas, or I don't use the correct, or I use, or if it's or if I'm doing it and this is the worst, when you're writing it and it automatically defaults to I'm like, autocorrect, I don't even know what that is. And then I hit send because I'm in a rush and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like to the biggest boss, and I look like I'm sitting at Applebee's, a margarita night. I don't even know what they think. I look like I'm down in margaritas at halftime. Happy hour, but yeah. So just being aware of what you do, have a system in place, make sure you keep up with it, and be consistent and set guidelines. So again, we talked about real quick about Open house and how important it is to get off on the right foot with your parents. You have that at the beginning of the year, making sure you provide information, and then keeping up with family fun nights. And there are so many community partners in this area that help support school success. In this area in particular, being aware of that and having them, being aware of that and having them, like having family fun night. You have family resource centers. You have Save the Children around here. Is that correct? So they do a lot of activities, and so promoting all of those things for your parents. They have all of those things. So there is a lot of support in this community. So be a part of that. You also have for preschool something called the Early Childhood Council. And the Early Childhood Council is very focused on wanting to make sure that they support families and all of the, families working with children when they're out of school. So they have family guides, if we've talked about those before, to help promote, being kindergarten ready. So if you think of an idea and you're busy, reach out to somebody. Reach out to Save the Children or your public library. Say, I want this. The family fun nights don't have to just be in your school. We want to think about where can we reach our kids. And it seems like, I'm not trying to add work for you, but there is, the parenting piece is so important to be on the same page. I know, and I don't mean to go to preschool a lot, but that's where a lot of us are for preschool. We have a new assessment tool. We have new Kentucky guidelines as well. With the new assessment tool, it includes the parents, like trying to have an opportunity for parents to understand what that is. Now, if that means you would need like the regional training center to help you figure something out, whether make a video or something to disseminate to them, we can help with that. That's not just saying hi, and talking to them on the phone, because like you said, it's difficult for them to understand it. It was difficult for us to understand it. But trying to find activities, maybe one-on-one activities, to get them to buy into it and see what it's even based on and why they're even doing it. So reach out to your public library, your regional training centers, family resource center coordinators, and even the governor's office of early childhood through the Early Childhood Council. We also have an access to live stream and meeting the needs of our parents. I always said, with running around, whose kids have a million activities, right? Like I said, we should have PTO, we should have site-based council at the basketball game. Just here, everybody sign in, we're doing this agenda, it's halftime, we're gonna do this, and then we'll just put up the signs of what we're doing, and the cheerleaders can go around, okay, advisory, meeting done. Because I couldn't get to anything, you can't get to anything. But now with the being able to Zoom and team meet and live stream, including our parents and things can be a little easier. Again, we have barriers with some families who can't get access to that, and we have to try to meet their needs. So one of the ways to figure out how are you going to do these programs and include everybody, because if you leave work at 3:30 and you have a parent activity from 3:30 to 4, you miss out on a lot of parents. So you get some and you check it off the list that you had it, but are you really connecting with all of your parents when you only have it at that time? So taking a survey, having the opportunity for parents to join live stream, and finding a way to maybe tape some things, like if you have a little Christmas play that some people can't go to. It seems like a lot of work, but parents really want to be a part of it. They're just working different hours, and they're busy, but trying to really go out of your way to build that relationship. So when we are supporting the success of our students, parents are their first teacher. They're their forever advocate. So you will have a student maybe 2 years in preschool, 1 year in other grades, but they're their parent for life. So building this partnership, especially building a partnership on behalf of the district, on behalf of the school, and being supportive and helping them be that child's advocate forever. You all are experts in your field. You are the ones who are trained to know about developmental delays, to know about the developmental trajectory and continuum. I wasn't in teaching at first. I said this earlier, it was business. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I lived in Alaska and had my firstborn there with no parents there, just my husband. I had no idea. I had babysat and stuff, but I didn't know like all the things, like I'm supposed to talk to her all the time. I just talked for her all the time. I mean, she's great and I took care of her, but there was so much I didn't know because I didn't have to take her to childcare. I owned a restaurant, went to school. I just didn't know. So by the time I did take her to school when she was 3, I moved back to the lower 48, you say. She didn't talk. She didn't talk. So the first thing that I had was a meeting with the school because she's 3 years old and she didn't talk. So what's one of the first things you think? Thought she had autism. So it was just because she had we talked to all the time, but I didn't encourage her to do it. So I just didn't know what I didn't know. And a lot of parents don't know. They just don't know. In all socioeconomic statuses, in all cultures, that's why it's so important to understand cultures and everybody's family. When I went into that school, they just thought I'd lived in Ashland forever. But I didn't. I mean, I lived out of state, and they didn't know my background enough to realize there was no connection there. They just took my daughter. They didn't really reach out, ask about it. The first thing I heard talking about it was that IEP meeting. So I don't mean to get off on a tangent on that, but really understanding the families if you can, especially if there's a concern. You see a lot of behaviors, really trying to build that relationship in a positive way and reaching out to them first, getting their opinions, getting their feedback, not just reporting it, not just, we're having trouble with him at school today, but really trying to get the feedback. Maybe some advice and actually giving them some ideas and getting ideas from our parents. We want to just build that positive relationship and share the power and responsibility with the family. It's not just us with the children all day. They only act like this at school. It is a shared power and responsibility. Lots of times we'll say, oh, it's she's spoiled, or we make excuses for things at home, but actually trying to dive into it. But honestly, building a partnership or building a relationship before something goes wrong will help if a conversation has to happen later. So that's why I just wanted to talk about encouraging you to reach out to all of your families and truly build that partnership and a relationship that's just at first. And these again with talking with your partners in the community. One thing with families is, especially when we're talking about having all your families represented in your classroom is important. It helps with the social and emotional learning of the children, and it makes them feel that they belong. Family trees are great, having books. Another thing is in like dramatic play or just around, if you're talking about preschool, have a child take a picture of their parent in their uniform. If they work at Walmart or Family Dollar or in a doctor's office, have them representative, and then the pride, and then that becomes another connection and a bridge for the students and their parents. Okay. So again, this is why we're kind of here today. It is important to build a good relationship with your parents, and because there may come a time that you have to have a difficult conversation, and it's very stressful to think about when the child comes in at first and all you've ever done was report the bad things that they've done, or the bad behaviors, or and I don't always like to say bad behaviors or just their behaviors. You're reporting their behaviors because behaviors are all just a sign of communication or something's going on, and they may be not ideal, but the conversation, we're trying to figure that out. So I do have some of those topics, those ways of addressing difficult topics. I have had some of the most difficult conversations with parents. I mean, talking about, should it be a half day of school? You know, you try to think about ways to do this. Should it be, you know, you're trying to think of how to present all these things to them. So this is just, you can look at this later. I think we end at 2:45, is that right? Is that right? Or maybe 3? Is it 3? Okay. But, you know, asking family whether they experience similar situations at home. That COS process can kind of help with that. And then, you know, sometimes you'll get, no, we don't. And then you turn around and you go, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm sure you don't. Well, maybe not. I mean, at school, it's a whole different dynamic. It's a different place. There's a lot of people. There's different lights. It's not as cozy. Maybe they don't see the same behaviors at home. So again, when you're working with parents, try to always be on a positive side that what they're saying is the truth. You know, and we don't want to always say, oh, they do, it has to happen at home. He can't just do that here. But we know that that might not be true. They're sending us their babies, right? They're not, you know, they're sending us their babies. And when you have a difficult conversation, it gets very emotional, right? We had emotional literacy. If I send my daughter to school, one day she came home on red, I came unglued. Like, I couldn't believe she came home on red. How in the world did that happen? I mean, I get upset because that's my daughter. So I was thinking about that moment in class that had to have happened where the teacher got so upset with her that she got on red. And that's what these parents are thinking. They don't want to send their child to school. They never said, ooh, I hope I have a child that really rips up a classroom. Like, I'm gonna get them. We got them, honey. We got them. We're gonna have this baby and we're gonna raise it so it rips up classrooms, punches teachers, and kicks stuff down. Now, I'm not saying they don't get the support. I'm not saying that they don't, they don't have the skills to, you know, or they're not, you know, there are some things that can be done, and we're getting into a new era now of supporting teachers. I do know that. I'm not saying that. But ultimately, they didn't have this baby in order to make Miss Jackie. You know, I mean, they didn't. But we're trying to work with them to, and I used to say that to myself, the child themselves aren't coming to school every day and saying, I am going to ruin Miss Kerri's day. I really believe that. I wanted to believe that that didn't happen. I had to detach myself from that. So anyway, thinking about if you already have a good relationship and have been positive with this parent, and you've built some kind of positive relationship and they feel comfortable at school, then these difficult topics are a little bit easier to deal with. But you know, you want to avoid comments that are blaming, and you want to work with them and really assure them that we can work together, that we can come to this table 1,000 times. We can come to this table. Even if you have a legal document in an ARC, we can reconvene this. You just don't have to have an ARC once a year. You're required to, but you can have one every Friday. I mean, it's not ideal. I don't want to do the paperwork for it. But I mean, I have said, we can come here, let's look at it, we'll try this, we'll look at the data, we'll come back. You know, so assure them of that. Like, this isn't not just your one time on the show. Like, this is not just your one meeting and we're done. This is all you get. So, and just really conveying your commitment to their family and to the child, and that you're here for them. And that really goes a long way. You just want their child to be in class and achieve their goals and be successful, you know, from now until they graduate. The one thing about it, talking about now we're just transitioning into the IEP, families have a unique perspective. Once you get and you have a meeting, you do start learning a little more about the families. I've been in an IEP meeting, I'm like, oh, well, that kind of sheds light a little bit. I didn't know about that. I mean, you just write present levels, blah, 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 blah. And you know, I've even had evaluations where they've said, no concerns at home at this time, no changes. Well, that's not true, because she just told me a tale, you know, and that's a tale, and we're gonna come back later, and I need to reconvene, because that's, you know, we've got a whole new thing going on here, and that explains a lot, you know, so we're gonna turn this and change it a little bit. But they do have a unique perspective. They can be critical partners for reinforcing strategies. Again, we only have them, 175 days, 180 days, and how many hours a day, and then that's it. But we want them to reinforce strategies, and they're their advocate, and we want to give them resources. We want to give them strategies. We want to give them, especially some with autism, like financial resources even, like a Michelle P. waiver, getting someone connected with that and all the things that gives them, because hopefully next year will be better, and hopefully next week will be better, or hopefully maybe tomorrow will be better, hopefully. But reinforcing strategies, so being on the same page and providing strategies, and using strategies they may do at home. Again, they're their strongest advocate, valuable source of information. Some of our families who have had children who have had hands or first steps or been in other programs, or maybe therapists or anything, they can kind of allow us access to talk to them and build partnerships with them, even with just the sign of access to talk to them. Okay, this is just, we're getting to the end of this, and you're like, oh, Kerri, 2 hours in a row. But so this is something, we did this little fun thing. I don't know if anyone, we were talking about IEP meetings, and we've had some doozies, and I'm glad no one ever has a camera on them to see. But we just made this up. And so this is an IEP meeting that is a don't. We were talking about the do's and don'ts of IEP meetings. So this is just a little, and I just realized I hope that the speaker works. So a couple things, we rushed through those meetings, and if technology was working and I had a speaker. But when you prepare for your meeting, don't just make sure you know that you're inviting your parents and giving them enough time. There are a certain amount of days that you're supposed to do that. But also any information that's pertinent to the meeting, whether it's an evaluation that needs to be there as well. They need to have, whether you interpret, so that they can interpret it before they're in the meeting. Not just handing them their 3-year reeval at the meeting. They're required to have it before the meeting, and it makes them feel that they're prepared. You don't want to ambush your parents, or any even pertinent data at all. That they're able to review it, reflect it, and not just see it for the first time and feel shocked about any information. But preparing and getting organized, making sure that you have your last year's IEP, request anything that you need, and we want our parents to be able to we want them to be prepared, because we want them to try to have a conversation with their child, not our preschoolers necessarily, but just trying to think of where they're gonna be and where they can kind of, the more information they have, like even developmental milestones, like where they should be, they can kind of look all that stuff up. As far as encouraging our parents to be engaged and share ideas, do whatever you can to make your parents feel comfortable to be a part of the team. They are one of the most important parts of your IEP team, and having input is very important. Again, we want them to ask questions, but of course, having ongoing conversations with them before makes all of that a little bit easier, and not having that all the first time at this formal long white table with a lot of, I'm going to buy a car paperwork, very formal. Having all those informal conversations matter most. We just, want to help with our parents understanding that they can continue to communicate, sharing their goals, especially if they're behavior goals, sharing them at home so they can help with data collection. They can also help with patterns of behavior, understanding that, we see that this has happened. They can write notes if they see. I've had to pick them up every Tuesday. I realized that it happens after T-ball on this day. It gives a lot of information about patterns, because there's no silo. Behavior's not happening in its own vacuum. It's an integrated experience, and it matters what's happening at home and what's happening at school together. There's another video, but I'll put them all up. The parental rights IEP, the parental rights, these are very important to make sure that they have every time. Of course, I do have this, and I'll post this. It's just like a summary to make sure that we write this. Jamie has a little parental rights wrap that I'll put up there. You don't have to wrap it, but he thinks he's funny. So, yeah. But maybe I can get to it. They're very helpful, this group. And I'm so sorry. I didn't know really that I needed it. But the parental rights are very important to have on hand and really say that, and do you understand? And do they understand what the right to mediation means and about the current placement? Okay, you want me to try? Yeah. I'm waiting, yeah. Oh, here. Let's see. All right.
That's the Bose speaker, I believe. We'll try that.
Okay. Well, it's okay.
We got plan B.
Oh.
Let's see.
Okay. Man, we're going to watch this if it's not.
You all going to see this video?
Oh, it's happening. You're going to watch them all. Yeah, I'm good at that too. I always do Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar. But so if we're ever at a conference, I mean, we're just, it doesn't, it's not great, but it's my go-to. It's my go-to. So again, it's okay.
Was it forward or back?
You'll see this. Thank you. Okay, thanks guys. It won't reflect too badly on my performance. I hope not. Thanks. Okay, so this will be a way to end it anyway. With all of that, we have to watch them now. So here's another one.
Hello? Mrs. Worthingno. Hello? It's Mr. Crestonus from over here at the elementary school. Hello? How are you doing this afternoon? Pretty good. Good. Listen, I'm calling about Xander's IEP. Actually, we got his evaluation back, but I looked at the date on his IEP and it actually expires on Friday this week. Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
I wanted to know if you could come in tomorrow morning during my planning time. That's easiest for me, at 8:30.
Well, actually, I work a double shift at Starbucks tomorrow, and I won't get off until 3:15. I can be there at 3:30.
Oh, no, 3:30 won't work for me. I coach a pickleball team at the Y, and we get out of school at 3 and get changed and get over there, so I can't do it at 3:30. I'll tell you what, let me just talk to you about his evaluation. Remember last year when we got your permission to evaluate him this year? We talked about all those things. His evaluation's done, it's complete. I just have a couple of things to write down about it this evening, but he's doing awesome. Yeah, we can actually just talk about it right now, because I can just tell you something. He's amazing. Yeah. How do you think he's doing?
Well, I haven't really seen anything about it.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's crazy. Those progress reports come home all the time. Well, anyway, We're just gonna kind of keep things the way they are. You know, the goals and stuff, yeah, he's still gonna get reading and math. Yeah, but he's doing awesome, and I'll tell you what I can do. Instead of you having to fool with coming over here and go through all this mess, I'll just send you home a notice of a meeting, and I've got a little post-it that I'll stick on there showing you where to sign, and I can just do all the paperwork, and then just send it home with Xander.
Okay.
I know Xander loses stuff sometimes, but he should get this home. Will that be okay?
I guess.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, if you ever have any questions, just give me a call. Like I said, I'm free from 8:30 to 8:35. So give me a holler then, and I'll be happy to talk with you about anything. Do you have any questions about his IEP for next year?
Well, I really I don't even know.
Yeah, like I said, he's doing great. We're just gonna kind of keep everything the same, okay? All right, well, listen, my other line's ringing. I gotta run. But call if you need me. They remember between 8:30 and 8:35. Have a great day. This is Fort Porcino. Bye-bye.
So, of course, that's not how we want to do it. It is funny, though. But sometimes we have to have, we don't want to have those. But especially if you're working with someone with behaviors, I mean, you don't want to rush them off the phone. They had no input, so all those things. I will finish with the last one. Does anyone, I mean, I know we know it's important to be with families, but really taking one thing is that building the relationship before you have to have a difficult conversation is key, and having that trust and that having the positives first before you have to deal with a difficult situation. So since they did all that work, I want to make sure that we do this next one. And I probably can't do it. Jamie. Oh, come on. Oh, usually he'd help me with technology. Where are you, Jamie? I can't get off of the screen. Anybody? I'm trying to escape. Oh, okay, thanks. Maybe. Okay. There's Stacy, the queen. This is just 5 minutes, and after, we want to make sure you do the survey on the back of your thing for the conference. So.
Sorry, Miss Kuzlowski. It's our life coach for photographer in the lounge. So he's got to eat. He's going about 2 classes today. So you know how this is. But I have a picture today. Anyway, how are you? How about I just call you Kerri? Okay. Or Mom. So, thanks for coming in for Xander's IEP meeting this afternoon. Miss Queen not here yet. I'm not sure exactly where she is. She's like, trying to find a needle in a haystack these days. But I can just go ahead and go over your parent rights with you. I mean, you need me to go over these again. He's 6, so you've gotten these like 3 times already. Do you need them again? I think you're okay. I mean, like, basically, we just have to talk to you before we do stuff. Okay? Oh, well, no, not today. She's super busy. It's picture day, and so you know what that's like. And anyway, like, I know everything I need to know. I'm so sorry I'm late. It's Red Cup Day at Starbucks. Oh, Red Cup Day. Did you bring us anything? Did you bring us anything?
No, I was in line forever.
Oh, that's how it is. Anyway, so I have...
You need to start with parent rights.
Oh, you already did that. And you weren't here, so I never know when you're going to show up. So, yeah, just anyway, I'm going to continue to run the meeting like I have been. Anyway, I have Xander's evaluation. It's all complete. I read over it. I really feel like he's doing super well. Do you have any questions?
I haven't seen it.
Oh gosh, what did you want to know? I mean, what will you understand from it? Oh, let's see. Here's where we talked about what he can do, and he can't do much. Like, he's pretty low functioning still. We're working on
doodling.
we're working on tying his shoes, and we're working on singing the ABC song. Is that still okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I took those goals and wrote up his IEP already. It's already set for you. So no questions. You don't have to worry. Excuse me. They're just for staff.
They're just.
I will tell you, we're pretty much going to just keep things the way they are. Oh gosh, I mean, it looks basically the same as it did before. I mean, you want to look at it? I mean.
Well, it says she will, but it's a he.
Oh, do you know? What do I do? Oh gosh, I'll fix that. I copy pasted it wrong. No, he's not first grade. Oh gosh, okay. Well, I'm gonna fix it. I know he's in first grade. I'm gonna fix it. Don't worry, everybody calm down. But anyway, it's all set. So, just like, do you have any other questions or anything like that? I mean.
I thought, is he getting speech though?
No,
He's
yes.
gonna be there. Let me call her.
Okay. You know that's LPs. They're always so busy. The bathroom, you go down the hallway.
He asked where the bathroom was. So the
And
like,
don't forget your cute glasses.
What? You got Taylor Swift tickets? Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my God, where's she sitting?
Oh,
Where's she sitting?
Okay, does this work? Oh, okay, all right, no big deal, I'll let her know, yeah. She didn't record on it, she said he's doing good, y'all.
Oh, I told you so. I told you you were doing great. Yeah.
She'll get there, you know, I'll just sit in the back.
I think you have a fitness backpack, so we can do the same thing here. We're to the conference summary, so do you have any other questions about anything? We talked about his speech. I mean, we took time to do that for you.
Listen, I've gotta go.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna start.
Okay.
I mentioned on Facebook about maybe getting a therapy pet or a therapy parent. Is there any way that could be maybe in his IEP?
In his IEP, well, I've already written it. Yes, we can put it in there, so let me do it for real quick. Bird. Yeah, so Bird's in his IEP, fine. So let's just sign the conference summary then, we'll be all set, because I have a free period next period, and I am gonna take a break. Okay. Just sign your name anywhere on there. Great. So Miss Queen has stepped out again, obviously super busy. I'll just sign her name. Queen and me. Okay. So all set. The secretary is not here today, so a parent volunteer is going to make a copy of the IEP for you, including his goals and all of his performance and things like that. All his personal information. I would do that for you, but like I said, I'm going to go on break. So here you go. Here's all your papers. The parent.
okay, I think that was worth it. So if nothing else, of course, what not to do, everything what not to do, and those things never happen. So never, never, never.